Well, to discuss this, I'm now joined live from Switzerland by Anthony Weil. He's founder and chief editor of the online magazine, thedailybell.com. Well, the West has long been concerned about nuclear materials getting into the wrong hands, terrorists, rogue states. But many would claim that the problem that they've really overlooked is the safety of atomic power. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I would agree with that for sure. I would suggest that it has very little, if anything, to do with safety. It has a lot more to do with sales, and atomic energy has been promoted very aggressively ever since, well, primarily the 1970s, where it ran into a dead end in 1979 and has resurrected itself here over the past 20 years as a viable solution to our global warming needs. However, some would say that it's really more or less about filling the pockets of some of the large multinationals. If you go back 30 years ago, you had 3 top scientists with General Electric, for example, who resigned amidst concerns that the designs for these Mark I reactors, of which 5 of the 6 reactors that we're dealing with here today that are going up in flames in Japan are Mark I designs. They resigned amidst these concerns that these designs would not stand up to the pressures of a natural disaster, and that the cooling power would just not be there to functionally be able to withstand this sort of a disaster. And today, that's exactly what we're seeing right in front of our eyes. So, the neglect potentially is quite well known by inside people who worked in the organization.
These warnings also came from another source. The latest WikiLeaks revelations suggest that back in 2008, Japan was warned of the possible dangers of having nuclear power stations in areas where, of course, there's a very, very big and regular threat of earthquakes. So why did they ignore that, do you think?
Well, I don't think that they had any choice. At that stage of the game, the commitments had already been made. What could they do? Would there be a refit to the power facilities? Would the taxpayers be asked to fund the negligence that was associated, perhaps, with the initial designs that were put forward, even despite the claims being made by GE scientists themselves who resigned? I don't think they had any choice but to turn a blind eye and hope for the best. And perhaps that just didn't work out too well.
What about the UN energy watchdog, the IAEA? It's now sending a team of experts to help Japan, but this is 4 days now into the disaster. Why do you think they've taken so long to act?
Because there's nothing they can do. The IAEA is a promoter of nuclear power. The IAEA is not any more efficient at solving this problem than FEMA was solving Hurricane Katrina's problems in the U.S. These organizations exist primarily for the purposes of aiding and assisting multinational corporations to provide their solutions to developing and advancing nations who are sold on the nuclear power solution. That's what we're dealing with throughout the entire world with the IAEA as a promoter of nuclear power, whose job is not to necessarily be able to come to the rescue of failed attempts at maintaining quality design and protecting the public from natural disasters such as we're dealing with here. Although they'll sell that message, when the proof is in the pudding, you can clearly see that the IAEA has absolutely no ability to deal with this problem any more than the Japanese government has the ability to deal with this problem. And at the end of the day, it's the people of Japan who have a right to be panicked, and they should be questioning the information they're receiving from their government, and they should certainly not be sitting back and believing that the government has this under control, because it's quite evident that they and the IAEA do not.
All right, well, many would be sharing your views about nuclear power. Indeed, those opponents of nuclear energy will say this exact situation vindicates their argument. What do you think will be the long-term implications of nuclear power now, the nuclear energy industry?
Well, I would suggest that they'll continue to flog it, the multinationals that have so much invested in this promotion, so to speak, as well as the IAEA, which is basically, as I say, a Trojan horse for Western elites and elite enterprises. I don't believe that it'll necessarily disappear overnight, but certainly the attempt will be made to continue driving forward. However, having said that, if it does maintain their agenda to continue to advance nuclear power, we would certainly hope that they will come up with more feasible designs, and that human beings would be a little more intelligent than to construct nuclear power plants in areas where no natural disasters are likely to occur or could occur. And certainly Japan is not. It's not a surprise to the world that an earthquake would happen like this off the coast of Japan, creating this sort of a disaster. It's always been known to be in a position geographically that is not conducive necessarily to these sorts of ultra dangerous types of power facilities. dangerous, and nuclear power is dangerous, regardless of what anybody likes to say, the IAEA included.
Just finally, you were saying that the Japanese people have every right to be scared, particularly at the moment, what's happening now. Those fears not exactly help when we get a European Commissioner suggesting just in the last hour or two that a possible catastrophic event could occur in Japan in the next few hours, although I understand he's actually backtracked on this statement. But this is coming from a European official. It sounds more like panic than supportive action from the EU, doesn't it? And those words surely aren't helpful.
Well, I don't know what the point would be for them to suggest that there is panic. I think everybody can see for themselves when they turn on their television sets that there's panic, and rightfully so. This is not a simple problem that's going to be easily solved. Radiation levels are skyrocketing. People are trying to vacate their local communities and get away out of harm's way as best they can, and there's no one there to help. All the supportive government agencies and non-government agencies, or NGOs, I should say, who have been appointed as the so to speak watchdogs for our security, which is how everybody is sold on their existences as government officials and international agencies, are quickly finding out that there is absolutely nothing behind those organizations' ability to actually provide solutions. So for the EU Commissioner or anyone else on behalf of an outside organization to stand up and point out the obvious, I think in this case is exactly that, pointing out the obvious.
Good to talk to you. Anthony Weil, founder and chief editor of the online magazine, thedailybell.com, joining me live there in Zurich in Switzerland. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.